right. We are rolling live here with Dr. Jack Scott Caulfield and the first PPSA Power Hour. Excited to introduce our first speaker, our first presenter. This guy's a major force in the strength community. Known as Dr. Jack, out there as Dr. Jack. He was the head strength coach for the NSCA. Just unbelievable knowledge, unbelievable connections in this field, and just super excited. Now he's at Colorado College, and a little bit of tidbit, he is America's strength coach, Scott Caulfield.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate the invite, especially to be the inaugural presenter for the PPSA Power Hours. Truly an honor, and excited to be able to talk about something that's pretty near and dear to my heart. Some people probably actually already heard me talk about it. I've talked about it at a number of clinics, from NSCA to the Mamba last September. And it's about coaching philosophy. I wrote an article on it, which I'll allude to in the slides, but I'm going to kind of run this slideshow and get it going here. Hold on. Let me share my screen.
And I got to give you the host here.
Okay.
So we're all, yep. More. All right, you should be ready to roll. Now you're ready to roll.
Cool. So let me get us on slideshow here. So, great. Yeah, again, as you mentioned, I made the move here over to Colorado College in September of this past year. I think it's pretty interesting, and it'll kind of tie into some of the stuff when I talk about this coaching philosophy stuff and values and beliefs and things that shape your coaching practice and your coaching philosophy. But a lot of people, probably the most asked question I get is like, why'd you leave the NSCA? Like, I mean, people, I think thought I probably was never going to leave. And to tell you the truth, the guy who used to have my job at the NSCA, Mark Stevenson, who was with Dev Group and Navy SEALs for a long time, when I asked him the question about why he left, he said the same thing that I said. And it's that, I never had this plan. I never could have told you that I was going to go to Colorado College to be the director of strength and conditioning. I didn't have that in the back of my head, like, this is what I'm working towards. I just tried to do the best job that I could, make the most connections, help as many people as I could. And when this opportunity presented itself to me, I knew that it was the right opportunity for a lot of different reasons. So it's been super fun to get back into the trenches, so to speak, and be follow in the footsteps of one of my mentors, Mr. Osmus here, who went back to USC after being, kind of in a parallel role in the strength world. So it's exciting to see people like us and Ronnie Mack now back at Fresno State making this move back in. That's a sign that you get to see if you come in to play us and you get to be in the visitors locker room. You get to walk out and be reminded that you're above 6,000 feet here at altitude.
And to interrupt you, I remember you sending me several texts kind of hinting that you were kind of up to something, and you were asking me a lot of questions about jumping back into coaching, and you were like, man, I'm getting the itch, and I've also got possibly an opportunity, and I'm really thinking about this a lot. And so we had a couple conversations about that.
Yeah, and I think that was, obviously having the peer support, the network to reach out to and bounce ideas off of is huge. And, I'll talk about that as well. Mentorship in this field, right, is tremendous. And it's probably the most important thing, honestly, above all else that you could have, is somebody to kind of guide you and bounce ideas off you. And kind of, when you're thinking about stuff like that, have a qualified, educated person to kind of advise you. And It was. Sometimes it feels like you're taking a big leap of faith to do something like that, and then like it's worked out for me, and like for you, it's been worth every ounce of energy that I spent thinking about it. So it's been super cool. Again, being at the NSCA was great too, because I had that unique role where I still got to coach. I got to oversee the facility there. Uh, really work with a ton of these different teams on this slide, from the relationship we had with Colorado College, and which, that was a key part of probably me getting the job, honestly. And almost a decade later from when I started at NSCA, we had a partnership with Colorado College, and we had trained their hockey team for years and years and years. And so I was in charge of them from 2011 to 2015. And in 2015, the NSCA stuff was just so busy with all the big picture stuff, conferences, events, all of the different partnerships we have with MLB and NBA, all those traveling to all those events and kind of being the liaison for strength coaches. It was just too much. And I had to step down. But the greatest part about that was they ended up adding another full-time position at Colorado College. So they hired a CSCS, strength coach to work with the team. And, fast forward to that, when they called me in the summer of last summer, and they were in a little bit of predicament where the two full-time coaches had left, and they had posted the position, just didn't have any luck. They offered to a couple people and they turned it down, and they were in a bind, and they were like, hey, can you help out? And so I ended up helping them out interim in August. And so I was doing both jobs. So I go to NSC in the morning and Colorado College in the afternoon, or vice versa. And after I'd been there for a few weeks, just a lot of things really kind of came to fruition. Light bulbs are coming on that this was the right place for me. And it's pretty funny. This is a great little story, is that because I joke with her about all the time, but one of our women's soccer athletes who just graduated or is graduating came in one day and just sat down and was like, so, we're chatting, and I was kind of telling her about my role at the NSCA. And so she said, well, how come you're not going to apply for this job? And excuse me, I started answering, and kind of midway through the answer, I realized like it was the lamest answer that I could possibly have thought of. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is lame. And after that fact, she walked out, and I'm like, why aren't I applying for this job? Like, wait a minute, like all the light bulbs are on, the stars are aligning. And that was kind of the aha moment that I was like, this is where I need to be. And it was mainly the student athletes that won me over, for sure. Being back with them and having that relationship was huge. Again, very fortunate to have been able to work with a lot of the NGBs, national governing bodies, through the NSCA, and have a lot of neat little things that would come up, working with the Chinese national team for short track speed skating for their summer 2018 summer camp here in the Springs, getting to go to spring training with the Yankees and Matt Krause. Just really cool opportunities. But again, the reason I keep coming back to this topic, this was one of my favorite quotes of all time, and insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I think, if you don't have a good idea of why you do what you do, it's pretty easy to fall into that kind of mindset, or that kind of trap, without knowing it. So when I started looking into like coaching philosophy overall, because anyone we ask knows that you're supposed to have a coaching philosophy. So anybody, when I do this clinic or this presentation at a clinic, I ask everyone to raise their hand that's heard of, having coaching philosophy. Every single coach in the audience raises their hands. And it's come all the way from this NASB, which is now called AFERD, but this was the National Association for basically all the physical educators. Third edition of their national standards was having to develop and implement an athlete-centered coaching philosophy. So we've known about this for the longest time, and most people too, when I ask them, and Aaron, you can chime in on this, but like if I asked you what you think of when I say philosophy, what's like one of the first things that you'd think of?
I mean, for me, philosophy, I just think that's your just day-to-day operations of how you conduct business. That's almost like your mission statement.
Yeah, I like it. And then if I got a little deeper and said, well, what if I ask you, like, what do you think of when I say coaching philosophy?
For me, it is a big coaching philosophy, and it's something that I put together, I think around 2008. That's still stayed with me to this time. And, we built this one, and I've carried it from place to place, whether I was coaching or doing anything, even working for Swornex. And it was basically being strong in 4 areas: faith in what you're doing, do it with passion, be a mentor at all times, and do it with integrity.
Nice. Yep. And then how about training philosophy? Does that differ any from the other one?
Yeah, I mean, training philosophy is definitely going to be, I think your philosophy of organizations of exercise you use, your sets and reps that you like to use at all times, your intensities, your rest times, in season, preseason, off season, all those things is how you format that in year-round calendar.
Exactly. I love it. And again, that was why I got a little deeper into this, because I think I found for my personal preference that the word philosophy just got thrown around too much, right? And you'd hear, well, what's your philosophy on speed training? And what's your philosophy on core training? And what's your philosophy on kettlebell training? And just kind of got lost in the shuffle of what we were actually asking people. So, in its simplicity, right? Coaching is teaching. It's training intensively by explanation, demonstration, practice. It's changing behaviors, maintaining behaviors, being inspirational, mentoring. Again, I know I love John Wooden's 8 laws of learning, right? Which is explanation, demonstration, imitation, and repetition, 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 repetition. And again, if we define philosophy, so a lot of times too, this is where, people, I think, who are thinking it more literally say, oh, it's, pursuit of wisdom, or like number 2, well, it's a particular study or system, such as the philosophy of whatever, philosophy of Zen. And then 3, which we'll see again here, another slide. This one is kind of probably the most often that we see, but it's basically the most general concepts, beliefs, and attitudes of an individual or group. And again, I like these kind of word clouds, or whatever that circle thing is called, with all the different words, because, when you ask this to a bunch of people, a lot of these different things come up of how people view philosophy or think of philosophy in their kind of day-to-day life, what it means to them. So again, digging into how this question gets asked so often. So this is the NSCA CSCS exam. Talks about all the different areas, right? Scientific foundations, assesses your candidates' areas of exercise science, anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, etc. And then let's look at the bottom. We got A&P, biomechanics, bioenergetics, anatomy, physiological. I don't see philosophy on there anywhere. How about this one? CSCCA, the SCCC, muscle physiology, bioenergetics, aerobic endurance, anaerobic, free weight machines, facility supervision. No philosophy on there either.
Those, because I can't even pronounce those words.
Yeah. And again, philosophy somehow missing off of both of them. But for some reason, and this goes even back to, it was a 1997 journal article that Bill Kramer was writing about something totally even different. But he said in 1997 or 98 that what is your philosophy was one of the most commonly asked interview questions of strength and conditioning professionals. So again, I'm thinking, well, how is it that it's just known that we're going to be asked this question? So luckily, Dr. Garrity at the University of Denver, who was the advisor for me for my master's project and my master's program in sport coaching, he did a literature review specifically in strength and conditioning literature back in 2010 to find out a little bit more about what people were talking about. And what they found in the research in the literature was that most of the time we're talking about 5 different buckets here, and this is what's right on this list. So some sort of system of training, right, which could be any number of things, conjugate, different types of systems, some specific method. So maybe it was Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting, whatever you might call it. Again, there's attitude, belief, right? I already mentioned that one. That one is the one I think we see a lot. It could be a theory of training or sort of aim of training. Like the aim of our training is to produce the most highly explosive, fast, and resilient athletes, blah, blah. So those are kind of the different buckets that were already in the strength and conditioning literature. And again, I kind of drop back to this attitude belief because I think that's where a lot of this gets formulated from and a lot of it gets founded from. And again, which you did a great job answering, I think we're really talking about 2 different things. I think we're talking about training and I think about talking coaching when we're talking about philosophy. And I think the 2 have to, work well together and they have to be integrated to be successful. So this is the article that came out in an SCA Coach, and it was called Philosophy and Strength and Conditioning, Clarifying Coaching and Training Philosophy that we wrote. And coincidentally enough, last Friday, actually, the NSCA tweeted this article out on the Twitter there. So you can go look for that. If you go to NSCA Twitter, literally just was last Friday. So check it out if you want to read that article after you see this. And again, what you already alluded to and what I broke out in this chart is I say that coaching philosophy is the why that you're doing it. This is the behind the scenes stuff, right? This is your values, this is your beliefs, tradition, personal preferences, what availability of equipment you have is going to influence your training. And then your training philosophy is the how you do it, right? It's the system, the specific method, it's the nuts and bolts, right, of why you do what you do, as well as the attitude and belief, what you believe in, of how you're going to get the results that you're going to get. So a lot of things to think about, but I said this is one of the questions I like to pose to people, and not that it's an all-encompassing list, but like, how would you define these things in your training philosophy? Fun, competition, winning, losing, success. Another one I mention all the time, the first year that I worked with Dartmouth football, I think everybody likes to win, right? I mean, nobody wants to be part of a losing team. It's just the way it is. But that year, the first year that I worked with Dartmouth football, they had just come off their first 0-10 season. So obviously, and everybody from the head coach down, wants to win, but we have to now kind of prioritize where does that fall in our coaching philosophy, because it's probably not going to go from 0-10 to 10-0, maybe, but probably not too likely. Teamwork, attitude, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. I don't know. Do you think of any other things off the top of your head, Coach, while I'm just kind of rattling here that might fall in there as well?
I mean, off the top of my head, those are, pretty common terms right there.
Yeah, and it keeps it simple. I mean, I think those are big ones that we think about and we talk about a lot, especially as strength coaches. How about this, though? Things that could test our philosophy, right? And this is, where the rubber meets the road. Parents, this is probably more for younger coaches, but I know I'm talking to some other people and you see it now that I'm back in the college setting, it's parents are having more of an effect or influence. Administrators, 100%. Sport coaches, right? I mean, we're part of the support staff. So if you have a shitty relationship with a sport coach, that's going to make your job really tough. And if you have a difficult relationship with your sports medicine staff or other coaches, job security, huge one, especially in the strength and conditioning profession. Tradition, time of season, team morale, problem athletes, boosters, outside distractions. How about quarantine, being sheltered in place, right? Now we're all really finding, and again, probably more importantly than ever, if we didn't have kind of our foundation or our bedrock and our philosophy in place right now, and our athletes are just all gone now, and we don't have a strong support staff, man, you could be in a tough place right now if you didn't have some of this stuff in place. So I think the people that probably had it are in probably a better place. And then again, though, too, I don't want to just put down people. If you haven't thought about this, think about the time that you have right now to work on going back to the drawing board, getting your philosophy straight, having a really good kind of foundational document to work from when you are able to get back into the thick of it here. And again, because Chuck D said it before I did, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I truly believe that, right? It's going to be too easy to see the next shiny ball or shiny whistle come by and jump on that bandwagon if you don't have something that you believe in and that you stand for and that you know is tried and true. Core values, again, these are the foundation, like you mentioned, for your coaching philosophy as well. Core values make up what we do, right? So these ones that I highlighted, teamwork, integrity, grit, effort, respect, sacrifice, actually coincidentally spells tigers, and it's in the weight room in a big letters across our weight room wall. And again, this list isn't all encompassing. This is just an example of a bunch of different core values that I thought of. Physical toughness, mental toughness, things we talk about a lot, paying attention to detail. You know, that's been ingrained in me since I've been in boot camp in the Navy, well over, God, close to 3 decades ago now. But like that's something that's always stuck with me. And I feel like that's something that's so easy to instill in the weight room, right? Everything is orderly and organized, and like having that carryover from taking time to pay attention to detail in the weight room, you know, carries over to everything, carries over to your schoolwork, carries over to sports. And again, you could have other core values. I think the other big one for me with core values is that if you truly value something and you feel, you know, that's your core value, a lot of times I think that we will know that about you without you needing to put it on the wall, right? I would know certain things that you instill and that you stand for, and I don't necessarily need to see that written down to know it about you, because it's your core value. It truly lives and breathes with you and is a part of your being. There's also core values in training, though, right? There's education, periodization, progressive overload, specialization, testing, monitoring, recovery. So we know all these principles, right, are foundational blocks that we also have to have solid training programs. And again, some of this stuff comes from our beliefs too, right? So a lot of times why we do what we do is from our knowledge, but it could be from past results and our environment, right? Like I mentioned before, depends on where we are. If I'm at USC and I have a fantastic weight room like you guys, or if I'm at a high school and we have 8-foot ceilings and, you know, 3 platforms and 3 racks, my training is going to have to be a lot different than it would be if I have somewhere where I have every possible resource that I want to use. So again, the values and beliefs are definitely going to manifest into our coaching philosophy. This is another table from the article. And what I talked about here was sometimes I think, and people might not realize it, but you might have, you might say that you value something, but what you're actually allowing to happen, or again, there's a misalignment in your coaching practice that doesn't support what you're saying you value. And these were just a few that I thought of good examples that correlate to strength and conditioning. Timeliness. So if we, you know, say timeliness is a core value, but then athletes are allowed to show up late, or there's not necessarily a punishment. So it's like, well, yeah, everyone has to be on time, but not really. Again, if I say that's a core value and then I don't do anything about it, there's a misalignment in my coaching practice. Attention to detail, allowing equipment to be left out of place. Safety, I think, is a big one, right? We bang that drum in strength and conditioning all the time. Safe, efficient workouts, keeping kids safe. But then, you know, if you don't teach proper form, or you don't teach people how to miss lifts properly, like, you know, we're not necessarily creating the safest environment. And then empowering leaders. So again, another big one that we talk about in strength and conditioning, and one that I think falls to the wayside a lot more, is not really ever giving kids a chance to lead or a chance to take some ownership of the program. And what better place than the weight room to help build leaders and help give them that opportunity. So I think you should have a personal mission statement. I think a personal mission statement will help you create your next steps toward your more written out coaching philosophy or more finalized coaching philosophy. So obviously I edited this part a little bit by adding in Colorado College, but I created this originally. This original mission statement was created in 2009. And it was, as it was then, to educate, motivate, and inspire athletes to enhance their physical and mental well-being through strength and conditioning. Again, I tailored it to Colorado College in the process of applying there and interviewing there. And that stands, again, as my mission statement today. So this was actually part of something that I even used in my interview at CC. And so why I left it in here is because I thought it was important. Is basically, this is a mission statement from the college. This is part of their mission statement. Probably the finest liberal arts university education in the country. And that will prepare them for leading and learning and leadership throughout their lives. And then they even broke out that learning and leadership part. And that was part of something that I had in my long form written coaching philosophy, was about learning and leadership in the weight room. So it was just a really cool part that I was able to pull out. And I think a lot of people, if you go through this process of creating this coaching philosophy and thinking about what you stand for and putting it down on paper, you might have an opportunity that's going to show you that it aligns currently either with the job you have or a job you want, and it will just help. Again, that was like a huge bonus point for me in my interview, just going through that process, having known that I already had this coaching philosophy. This is what I do. This is what I stand for. And now I'm tying it into the school's mission statement. I was like, oh yeah, this is extra points, big time. And so this is kind of the long form, and I'll leave it up here a little bit because I'll kind of read through it. This was my longer form coaching philosophy. And it once was in like a paragraph form. I made it kind of more of like a bullet point to make it more presentation style. But again, start out with my mission statement. My coaching and training style isn't solely focused on winning, but it's about striving to be the best version of yourself as both an athlete and a human being. Intentional coaching can teach life lessons through sport, which can help build character. I say that because we hear it, I think, a lot in sports and in athletics, that playing sports builds character, right? Well, that's not true, because there's a lot of people with really shitty character that have played sports throughout their lives. So I think intentional coaches can help teach life lessons, which can give people great experiences in sport. I prioritize teaching core values over winning. I think core values, again, they're the values and principles that guide our everyday lives. If those things are solid and they are very good, I think winning takes care of itself. People with those core values, end up being winners. Leadership is a critical skill for athletes, and it's a lifelong skill that will serve us positively throughout our lives. Communication is also another lifelong skill, and the ability to communicate with teammates and coaches helps everyone understand expectations and allows us to get to know each other. Communication, man, right? One of the biggest things, one of the most important things that all of us, no matter where we are in life, no matter what part of life we're in, no matter what position we're in, being a good communicator is key. Everyone should strive to achieve mastery in their craft. The path to mastery will be something that athletes and coaches alike can follow to improve themselves on a daily basis. So again, striving to always be better. And lastly, I say My coaching philosophy, all these values and expectations mentioned above are expected to be held in the highest regard by the athletes and coach, myself, and improved upon as time goes on. So it's continuous, it's an ever evolving process. We're always going to try and get better or try and be better and try and do things differently. And so these are things to think about, right? This is kind of where I go with this presentation in different settings. And for the people, if you're watching right now, you can either take a picture of this or watch it on YouTube later when you come back and check it out. But what comes most naturally to you each day? These questions should help you kind of think about what you want to do as you craft this coaching philosophy. What do you consider your best achievements and accomplishments? What do you like best about your job? What are the worst things about your job? Aaron, what comes most naturally to you each day?
For me, I mean, what comes most natural, just, I mean, to me, it's just the opportunity to mentor, to work with our players. And that opportunity each day when I wake up is just the excitement that jumps me out of bed, and I can't get to the facility fast enough, to be able to do. I think the biggest thing is naturally, like, my wanting just to go motivate is just something that just really comes natural.
Yeah, no, I think that 100%, like just being around the athletes and helping them 100% most naturally. I think another one too is, and I'm sure it is for you too, like training myself, right? Like that is not something, that's just part of what we do. It's part of our everyday life. It would be something that we do no matter if we were finance guys, right? Like, so that's ingrained in us, and that's just like automatic. Let's see. So again, this is more, thinking about why you do what you do, and so list 3 to 5 people you admire most and why you admire them. Of the values you admire, what are the ones you believe you can and want to realistically achieve for? And achieve and stand for, sorry. So again, a lot of times we might have parents here, we might have sport coaches that had an influence on our life, but this is really a chance to kind of think about people that influenced you and really think about what the influence was. Like, don't just be like, oh, they were really nice to me, but like think a little bit deeper about it. Like, what do you really appreciate what this person stands for? Because that's what's coming through to you. That's what's speaking to you of what you want to be, and why you want to be like that person, or why you really admire them. That picture that I sniped off Instagram was also from this summer. That was my staff, the 3 on the left, and then Coach Canvas Walls from Louisiana dropping in to hang out with us. But again, ironically enough, that past summer at NSCA was probably like best summer I've ever had there. Probably my favorite staff, not that I'm playing favorites, but one of my favorite intern classes, favorite assistant, and I still decided to make this move. So, I think when you think about different things, some people think, oh, things must have been bad here or bad there. But, again, it just goes back to what was best going to support me in the future of my career and help me evolve my coaching practice. So here's some more questions to think about for people. So if you were going to prioritize this list, think about how you might, and again, this isn't all encompassing. You could have different areas in here, but job, family, friends, health, hobbies, values, religion, money. How would you put that list from 1 to 7 or whatever it is? Also, what's not important to you? What are you willing to compromise, not compromise? Is there anything you're willing to die for? Is there anything you feel so strongly about that you would go that length? Think about it. What would you like to have written as your epitaph? That's a fun one that we do actually with our intern class and this mentorship program that I have. But we would have them write a their own obituary having died on their 100th birthday. And you have to think about what you would have accomplished throughout your lifetime. And it's really neat. It's a little creepy at first when you think about it or hear about it, but it's a really neat exercise. And at the end of the day, when I went through it, through a mentorship that I did with Martin Rooney, who was at Pre-C Speed School at the time, when I look back at it now, a lot of the things that I wrote in that obituary have come true, have come to fruition, even though I wrote that in 2009. And now it's a decade later, over a decade later. Why are you here? Purpose, fundamental reason for existence besides making money. List things that you do throughout the week that help you know that you're on purpose. Things you consider special in your life right now, right? I mean, anybody that follows me on social media is going to know that bringing these dogs to work is a huge part of my life. And I would be remiss if I didn't say it was a decent factor in taking the job, knowing that I could bring them to work. What's that worth? You know, how do you put that into a salary number, right? And I think the kids like the dogs more than they like me sometimes, because they'll come in the office and be like, "Is Finley in here?" And be like, "Nope." And then they just walk out. I'm like, "Oh, okay, good. See you later. Good talk." Epic picture right here. But what do you dream about during the day? Again, things for some of the people who are watching to jot down or take a screenshot. What do you do that makes you most happy? Top 3 career choices. Cool. And that is about it. This is my contact info. Again, those questions, you know, I'm also happy if anybody wants this. Aaron will put my, if you don't have a chance to jot this down, Aaron can get it out. But feel free to reach out to me. I'll send you this entire presentation if you want to check it out, and then you'll have the questions available. You don't have to worry about trying to jot this all down. So I'll leave it up for a couple more seconds. Instagram is where I spend the majority of my time, probably honestly too much of my time, but it is what it is. I do have
you
Twitter.
got a PhD in Instagram.
PhD in Instagram stories.
Man, this has been great. We've talked a lot just to see it all kind of come into on a power slide and things like that. And, you know, appreciate that. And like I said, people that are watching can reach out to you with any specific questions and things like that, and shoot you a DM. And if they want to talk anything further. But before we kind of wrap it up, I would like to, you know, basically say thank you for doing this and being the first guest. And obviously we want to continue this through these times where people are, you know, trying to find entertainment and coaching and, you know, further education on, you know, through Zoom meetings and things like that. So this is something we talked as a staff a couple of weeks ago about putting this on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 o'clock. That way it's consistent as we go. And as people start tuning in, because it's just it's a consistent day of the week and consistent time. So with that, I wanted to introduce our Thursday speaker, Mr. Josh Heider, colleague, share the same weight room. We're just a couple offices away. And he's going to give you a quick kind of elevator rundown speech of what he's talking about on Thursday on the second episode of the PPSA Power Hour.
Hey, first off, I now know why they call him America's strength coach. Dr. Jack, man, bring in the heat. That was awesome. That's going to be a hard one to follow up.
Thanks.
Thursday, I'll be coming at you guys with a presentation I call the 10 Commandments of being an elite strength coach. Basically, just sharing some thoughts I've learned along the way. So no matter where you are on your coaching journey, I think you'll be able to take something away from it. I hope you guys join us. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me, Double A.
Josh, would you think this episode coming up is going to be pretty decent?
It's going to be decent. It's a good thing to call it decent.
Decent.
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, that beard and things you got going out there at Idaho, it's looking pretty decent.
Trying, man. I got to set myself apart from you in some way. So I figured, why not try a goatee?
All right, guys. Like I said, we're wrapping this up, and we will tune back in on Thursday, same time, 1 o'clock Pacific time, and looking forward to keeping this rolling. I will be continue to bring on new guests and then with different backgrounds, different philosophies, and it's going to be fun. So keep tuning in. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, man.